Steve Bannon was finally sentenced today, and it did not go well for him. Bear in mind, before you hear the details, it was a Trump-appointed judge who sentenced him, and notably, Donald Trump is not president anymore, and so no pardons are coming, at least for right now. Stay tuned for 2024. In any event, he was found guilty on 2 counts of contempt of Congress, and that has now led to a 4-month sentence, 2 technically, but running concurrently. So in theory, he'll serve 4 months in prison. He also has a fine of $6,500, but that does not mean that he is going to be in prison tonight. He is going to be able to appeal this. He has already said that he is going to, and while that appeals process plays out, he will be free. He apparently has a couple of weeks to actually file the appeal. I don't know exactly how long it'll take for that entire process to play out. Perhaps Adrian will. My guess would be absolutely forever. I feel like it's gonna take a year or 2 and he's gonna be perfectly fine. For all we know, he will be present for the next insurrection, early January 2025. But stay tuned for that as well. In any event, the feds wanted more. They wanted 6 months rather than 4. They wanted a $200,000 fine rather than just the $6,500. Which I understand. Steve Bannon's gonna do an episode of his show. He's gonna ask for his impoverished viewers to bail him out, which they will. They will give him their last cent. He will pay absolutely nothing. But he could, at least in the end up spending some time in prison. What do you think?
Yeah, the $6,500 part is a joke. The guy has Seinfeld money, unfortunately. Like, he was literally a producer on Seinfeld. And he talks about the liberal media, he's got his anti-Semitism, etc. He made his money, almost all his money from Seinfeld. Let's just note that for the record. And then after making a gazillion dollars from Seinfeld, he then robbed his own viewers of like $1 million or whatever to build a wall, and then bought, like, him and his friends bought like yachts and cars, and because they think, oh, guys, you gotta understand, the right wing is a giant neon sign to all con men. Come rob these folks. Okay, so guys like con men like Steve Bannon go, am I gonna go to the left wing? No, they're smart. I'm not gonna, they'll never buy what I'm selling. I'm just gonna go rob the right wing, right? So that's what he's in the middle of doing. And despite all that, 6,500, it's nothing. Okay, 4 months in prison. Okay, I mean, he's gonna try to drag it out until you get to 2024, then Trump's gonna pardon him on the first stage. By the way, you think he's not gonna do it? If people in Washington are so nuts, they live in their own insane bubble. That's almost as crazy as the Trump bubble. Trump's gonna pardon everyone on his first day. Every January 6th rioter, everyone who got convicted of insurrection. He's gonna let them all go instantly. He's Bane, okay? But the people in Washington, oh no, that's too much. He wouldn't do that, that's too much. On which planet, right? Which alternate universe? So no, so they got to get him in jail before then. But really, 4 months, it's okay. The main thing is he has to actually comply with the subpoena. If he doesn't comply with this legal subpoena from Congress, and Adrian, I kick it to you because I don't know the answer to this. So if he serves 4 months, is he free to go? Then he doesn't have to answer Congress's question, or do you do it again?
You do it again. Yeah, we're going back through this. Yeah, it's really. It's interesting because as much as the federal government really wanted to push the max here, trying to get as much money as possible with a $200,000 fine, also seeking the 6 months, 4 months is pretty strong for this kind of charge. It's just a matter of giving him the time to do what he wishes while he files this appeal. And I know that he has 14 days to do that. And then the DC federal court there, Court of Appeals, it's going to review it. And the thing is generally it's the chief judge of the court who disseminates cases. And who knows, because that court there may not be down for the nonsense and may actually want to move things along. So I wouldn't be surprised if that appeal was handled at somewhat of an expedited basis, if not having DOJ submit such a request, so that they could hopefully put Bannon back in handcuffs and put him in jail. Because the more time that he spends away from actually facing consequences, the more opportunity he has to rile up Trump's base and to cause all sorts of chaos and to continue to threaten our democracy. And the fact is that for anything to be a deterrent, it needs to be swift, severe, and certain. And here there was some certainty. It wasn't as swift as possible, and there is just a little bit of severity. And the DOJ, the government, really needs to step up, as well as the court system. Even though I can to some extent kind of give a tip of a hat here in terms of what they did.
Yeah. If I can just add one little element, last element of me being Buzz Killington, on them potentially doing it again if he doesn't respond to the subpoena at that point. Let's bear in mind that we can hypothesize about whether Trump might be president in 2024 to pardon him, but it is looking extremely unlikely that there will be a January 6th commission in 4, 5, 6 months, even existing, to still have a subpoena out for.
Yeah, John, actually it's funny you said that, because I was gonna say a variation of that. I realized as we were talking, wait a minute, he doesn't have to wait till 2024. It's possible that if the Republicans win the House in 2022, which is actually very likely now, that they'll just come and go, what subpoena?
Yeah.
We're Congress now, and we don't want him to testify. So this is a moot issue. So now the crime happened in the past, so I think they have to still prosecute that. But again, I go to Adrian here because I'm not positive. Would that materially help his appeal if the new Congress goes, nah, we don't want him to testify?
Well, the court could consider it if they wanted to some extent, to argue that to some extent that this is moot. But the fact is that he's already gone through the criminal justice system. And so it is in the hands of the criminal justice system, and the Court of Appeals will make that judgment based on whether he complied and what he did, what he needed to do. It's so incredibly sad, as you've noted, the thought that the House ends up flipping, then there's not going to be any continuation. There's not going to be any accountability. Yeah. And I'm just really bummed about that.
Oh no, I just saw the future, and it ain't pretty. So Congress could easily, if the Republicans win the House, they could easily do this, and Trump will put a lot of pressure on them to do this. Say, hey, we don't want the subpoena anymore, and then they finish up the case, because that case is about things that happened in the past. Adrian just explained to you what the law is, so they'd have to actually put him in prison. And when they do, Goebbels, Tucker Carlson and the other right-wing media will scream, political prisoner, political prisoner. Oh my God, Congress says they don't want him to testify, but they're putting him into prison because he wouldn't testify to Congress. Oh my God, and then they'll do good tears. Oh, they enforce the law against the right winger, right? And they'll try to take the mantle of victim and in favor of freedom, and they'll paint the Democrats as the fascists.
Yeah.
And by the way, we just saw the poll. Guys, things are in disastrous shape. Earlier this week, where they asked who's the biggest a major threat to democracy. Okay, Trump came in at 45%, but Biden came in at 38%. And you're like, what? Why? Why would Grandpa Joe's barely awake a threat to democracy?
Didn't he attack the Capitol? Somebody did.
No, by the way,
the Capitol?
There was a poll where a majority of Republicans, like a massive majority of Republicans, thought it was Biden's fault that the Capitol got attacked. Okay, no, guys, they don't live on this planet. We're trying to debate zombies. I'm telling you, they don't live in this reality. So they think Biden did January 6th, Trump is perfectly innocent, and that the Democrats are a threat to democracy because they bother to count the votes and then recount them and audit them and then go to court and verify them. And they say, oh yeah, that's how you steal democracy, by counting the votes. No, you don't count the votes. Today, Tucker Carlson is saying Kari Lake's victory will be legitimate only if she wins. Kari Lake, if you lose, will you say you lost? Nope.
No.
Nope.
No.
They're coming for democracy. So you got to enforce the law. I could tell you to go vote for Democrats, not because they're great, but as usual, because the other side is now significantly fascist. But me saying it isn't going to make a difference. It's a giant country. Democratic leadership sucks. They didn't make their case. We're in bad times.
100%.